What's up, everyone? It's Jenn, the board game librarian, and today I'm coming to you with a new book review. Hold on to your pants. We are going to take a voyage, a flight in the air with the Aviator's Wife with Melanie Benjamin. In The Aviator's Wife by Melanie Benjamin, published in 2013, we tell the story of, and we hear the story of Anne Morrow Lindbergh, the wife of the famous aviator Charles Lindbergh. If I think for more modern audiences, when we're asked what we know about the Lindberghs, we can say, oh yeah, Charles had his famous solo flight from America to Paris in 1927, and their baby was kidnapped and killed. I asked my dad about that question on Saturday, and that's basically what he knew too about the Lindberghs. So we start off our book here where Anne is down in Mexico City with her ambassador father, and she meets Charles Lindbergh for the first time. This is immediately post his famous flight. He is the most famous man in the world. People are rabid fans, loving him, paparazzi, following him, articles, can't catch a break. Charles Lindbergh is a pretty quiet and shy individual of sorts, and part of the reason why he takes a liking to Anne Morrow. She herself is very timid, very shy, kind of the disciplined one, as Benjamin says in this book. They form a relationship, they end up getting married, having children. Of course, their first child is so famously kidnapped and found dead. There's the famous trial that goes along with it, and then the other things that go along with it. Now, I listened to this book. It was 13 discs, which is on the longer end. The book itself is 300, well, with the author's note, a little over 402 pages. And it felt like 13 discs. It went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. A coworker of mine at work, I think, loves this book. Anytime she's asked for a historical fiction recommendation, this is one of the things that she recommends. So it had been on my radar for a while, and then I chose this book to go along with the game Pan Am for Board Game Breakfast. And Pan Am talks about the early days of commercial aviation, and of which Charles Lindbergh was very involved with. He helped chart some of the early routes. He was very involved with helping planes grow in terms of size and their complexity. But the audio narration on this book is perhaps some of the worst that I have ever heard. Ever. The woman who read the book, overly dramatic, simpering, whimpering, made Anne Morrow Lindbergh a terrible character to even like at all. And by the time Anne gets her voice at the end of the book, I don't care. Like, I really don't care that she's finally grown a spine and has taken some control of her life, because the damage is already done. The things I'm saying here are not necessarily spoilers, because the book is pretty heavily based in the historical research that Benjamin did. But Anne goes along with everything that Charles says. Now, Charles is a super controlling, overbearing presence in her life, and he is the main attraction. And everything has to be done his way, or there is no way. Anne leaves their children to go on these very long aviation flights. She does all kinds of questionable things. And she herself becomes, to me, just as despicable as Charles Lindbergh does, because of what she lets him get away with and then what she goes along with. Of which is, oh yeah, the Nazism and the anti-Semitism. Love it. It's great. Wow. I think over time we've forgotten that Charles Lindbergh was a Nazi sympathizer in the early, just pre-World War II. Pretty anti-Semitic too. And Anne ends up writing this pamphlet on basically why Charles is right and why this, to be out of the war and to stay out of this. It doesn't win either of them any favors. Their stars definitely decline, whereas for a really long time they have been very popular. During the war, Charles ends up working for Henry Ford and doing some missions and flights, and his star rises once again. But then we get to the 1950s, and little does Anne know that Charles is having multiple affairs with multiple women over in Germany. He ends up having 7 other children with these women, besides the six that he and Anne have together, 5 of which end up surviving to adulthood. And he ends up leaving Anne by herself in Darien, Connecticut, to raise these 5 children. Not great. He ends up dying in 1974 in Hawaii. Wants Anne to be buried with him. She says, "No way, Jose," and ends up, I think, being buried in Connecticut, but I feel like I'm wrong on that. Anne herself also ends up having an affair, possibly more than one affair, but one very long-term affair. Can't say I necessarily blame her, but also very wrong. Like, the two of them are just not great, likable people. And the audio narration, again, just made this book a slog to listen to. I ended up reading like the last 20 pages just to power through this because I wanted it to be done. And I think if I had maybe not read it, I would have given it more than 1 star. It might have gotten 2. The 1 star is a pity star because of Benjamin's research skill and attention to historical detail. She shows great research prowess here in this book. I never necessarily questioned the research that she had done for this book, but wow, is this not great. Do not read this book unless I don't know why you would read this book. So that's what I have to say about The Aviator's Wife by Melanie Benjamin. I had read one of her first books about it was the autobiography of Mrs. Tom Thumb, and I think I had a somewhat similar visceral reaction to it. I guess I just don't like her books. I'm sorry, girl. I'm really sorry. That's this week's book review. Make sure to like and or comment have you read any of these books. I'd love to know in the comments below. Bye.